Sandhan. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Hello everybody, welcome to Sandhan English Special Lecture Series. My name is Mubina Qureshi. I am a teaching assistant in English Communication at IIT Ram, Maninagar, Ahmedabad. That is Institute of Infrastructure, Technology, Research and Management. Today we have a very wonderful topic to discuss, and that is a poem. The title is Small Scale Reflections on a Great House. Before going there, let us have a look on a quote by Robert Frost. One of the very interesting, one of the very wonderful words about poetry, when he says, poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found words. Once we have an emotion and it has found, if it gets found, it gets the thought, and then the thought that gets the words, then the poetry gets its form. Here also, in this poem also, we will see that A.K. Ramanujan had a feeling, an emotion, then he got the thought and then the words. The title is Small Scale Reflections on a Great House. He's talking about a great house, his ancestral house, and small scale reflections, very minute kind of memories which were related with the great house, the ancestral house. A.K. Ramanujan was born on 16th March 1929 and died on 13th of July 1993. His name is Athipat Krishnaswamy Ramanujan. Let us have a brief biography. A.K. Ramanujan was an Indian poet, scholar, a philologist, folklorist, translator and playwright. He was having sound command over 5 languages: Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Sanskrit and English. Almost in each language he had written wonderfully. He was educated at Maharaja College of Mysore, as he was born in Mysore only. In college, Ramanujan majored in science in his first year, but his father changed his major from science to English, and we must feel lucky to have such a brilliant, such a wonderful Ramanujan as a poet, as a writer, who just had given his almost everything to this poetry field. He was a fellow of Deccan College, Pune, and Fulbright scholar at Indiana University. He received his PhD in linguistics from Indiana University. In his career, he had lecturership in Quilon and Belgaum. For about 8 years, he was there in Maharaja Shivaji Rao University of Baroda. That is to say, MS University, very famous MS University of Baroda, Gujarat. In 1962, he joined the University of Chicago. However, he did teach at several other US universities at times, including Harvard, University of Wisconsin, University of Michigan, University of California at Berkeley, and Carleton College. These are the universities where he had given his best of his time. He was awarded with Padma Shri as well as MacArthur Prize Fellowship. In 1976, the Government of India awarded him Padma Shri, and in 1983, he was given the MacArthur Prize Fellowship Award. In 1983, he was appointed the William E. Colvin Professor in the Departments of South Asian Languages and Civilizations, in the committee also on spatial social thought at the University of Chicago, and that was really a big thing for an Indian to be there as a member of the committee. As we know the basic things or the background of the poet, we can go with the actual poem, the actual core part of today's lecture. The poem, the title is Small Scale Reflections on a Great House. Let me read the poem first. It is little lengthier one, not like the other poems of your syllabus which are smaller than this one. The poem starts with, sometimes I think that nothing that ever comes into this house goes out. Things that come in every day to lose themselves among other things lost long ago, among other things lost long ago. Lame wandering cows from nowhere have been known to be tethered, given a name, encouraged to get pregnant in the broad daylight of the street under the elders' supervision. The girls hiding behind windows with holes in them. Unread library books usually mature in 2 weeks and begin to play a row of little eggs in the ledgers for fines as silverfish in the old man's office room. Breed dynasties among long legal words in the succulence of Victorian parchment. Neighbors' dishes brought up with the greasy sweets they made all night the day before yesterday for the wedding anniversary of a god. Never leave the house they enter, like the servants, the phonographs, the ellipses in the blood. Sons-in-law who quite forget their mothers but stay to check accounts or teach arithmetic to nieces. Or the women who come as wives from houses open on one side to rising suns, on another to the setting, accustomed to wait and to yield to monsoons in the mountains' calendar. Beating through the hanging banana leaves, and also anything that goes out will come back, processed and often with long bills attached. Like the hoops, bales of cotton, shipped off to invisible Manchesters and brought back, milled and folded. For a price, cloth for our days is middle class loins, and muslin for our richer nights. Letters mailed have a way of finding their way back, with many redirections to wrong addresses and red link marks. Earn it in Tiruvilla and Sialkot, and ideas behave like rumors. Once casually mentioned somewhere, they come back to the door as prodigies, born to prodigal fathers with eyes that vaguely look like our own, like what uncle said the other day. That every Plotinus we read is what some Alexander looted between the malarial rivers. A beggar once came with a violin to croak out a prostitute's song that our voiceless cook sang all the time in our backyard. Nothing stays out. Daughters get married to short-lived idiots. Sons who run away come back. In grandchildren who recite Sanskrit to approving old men to bring betel nuts for visiting uncles, who keep them gaping with anecdotes of unseen fathers, or to bring Ganges water in a copper pot for the last of the dying ancestors' rattle in the throat. And though many times from everywhere, recently only twice, once in 1943 from as far as the Sahara, half grown by desert foxes, and lately from somewhere in the north, a nephew with stripes on his shoulder was called an incident on the border and was brought back in plane and train and military truck even before the telegrams reached on a perfectly good Chetty afternoon. The poem was published in 1971. Let us have the detailed discussion, the summary and analysis we can say. As we can understand, the poem reflects the speaker's reflections on an ancestral house, his old house, the bigger one, the greater one. The poet mentions that some things that entered the house never went out, and he gives the examples one by one. Once he is done with the idea of what exactly is happening, what exactly happens in this great house, then he gives us the examples, which thing and how they lost themselves. He says some things that entered the house never went out and they get lost amongst other things, and similarly with the history of being lost, everything which entered never ever went out. Like he gives the example, cows that entered, they were provided with shelter and gifted with a name. Any cow, when it enters, the people of that great house gives a name to that cow and they just give a shelter, they just give the food to that cow. Their mating with bulls was carefully shielded from the young girls of the house. Now this is think a very important aspect of Indian mentality here, and basically Ramanujan was engaged with severe kind of criticism on Indian mentality. He says that the cows mating with the bulls was carefully shielded from the young girls of the house. Nevertheless, these girls managed to witness the cat through holes in the window, and this is really the very hypocrisy of Indian minds, that we do not discuss or we just hide sexual things, sex matters, mating of animals, and we just cover it up carefully before the young girls. Here also the same thing is happening with the elder ones who welcome, who just give the shelter to the cows, they just try to get them pregnant and they just shield it when the delivery is on or the mating between a bull and a cow is going on. They are very keen to hide such things, and nevertheless the girls who are there, who are curious to know the things, who somehow manage to witness the cat through holes in the window. And it happens in our culture, in our societies, that the younger ones who are very curious to know the things, they are not able to get the ideas, and through such kind of mischievous acts they do enjoy, they do learn, they do see the things, view the things. Now this points to the sheer hypocrisy in Indian society, as we just had the notion about hushing up topics that are in reality not taboo anymore. Discussion over sexual aspects, discussion over mating between two animals, that is not at all a taboo anymore, but the Indian hypocrisy, Indian society has such kind of hypocrisy to show. This is a haunting memory for the speaker of the poem, and he tries to convey his bad memories or his whichever kind of memories he is having with that great house. He is trying to show us with these words. Then the speaker mentions that library books once borrowed from libraries never found their way back. The books remained only to serve as breeding homes for insects and worms like the silverfish that multiplied in the office room of the head of the family. And he tells us that in that great house anything which entered never went out. One of the example he is giving is that of the books from the libraries. Then the speaker mocks that dishes that belonged to the neighbors were never returned. These dishes came to the house to distribute sweets to celebrate the wedding anniversary of some god. Again, here the poet makes fun of the frivolity of tradition and plurality of religion. Yes, we know that in India we have millions and millions of gods to pray, and religion has rituals to follow. The tradition is really frivolous, and here we can see that the custom to distribute sweets is the system which is very common in Indian households. The poet remembers from his childhood that the dishes from the neighbors, they came to serve to distribute sweets to celebrate the wedding anniversary of some god, but those dishes never ever went out. The poet goes on saying that servants once employed never left the house. Another example which comes in and never goes back. The servants. Gramophones continue to remain there. Gramophones, servants, dishes, cows. These are the examples poet is giving by saying that once anything which enters doesn't go out. On an upsetting note, the poet mentions that disease like epilepsy that once entered the blood continue to haunt the generations to come. Another thing that is he is mentioning with that any disease, especially epilepsy, and which once is entered into blood, it doesn't go from the generations. Nextly he says, and mockingly he says, sons-in-law who came to see their mothers-in-law or fathers-in-law never left the house. Once they came in, they never went out. They were asked to stay back to check domestic accounts by the mothers-in-law or office accounts by the fathers-in-law. They were also asked to stay on to teach arithmetic to the nieces of the family. We have this kind of culture also in few of the families in India. Here, when the poet A.K. Ramanujan is dealing with his own memories of his childhood, he says mockingly that this great house was having such kind of custom where sons-in-law once entered never ever worried or cared about their own mothers, their own relatives, and they didn't go back. Rather, going back, they were engaged in domestic accounts, in checking domestic accounts or settling office accounts or teaching arithmetic to the nieces of the family. The poet goes on by saying that women who came as wives of some male members never left the house. Sons-in-law, okay, fine. Now women he is talking about as wives of some male members. They once entered, never left the house. They were left to witness monsoons beating against the banana plantations. And he is going on by saying that something that went out of the house did find way back again. Their way back. Now this is another thing. First thing that we have just discussed is once anything that enters never goes back, never went out. Another thing, anything which goes out, went out of the house did find their way back. Anyways, whatever gets out, it gets back into the home again. And he gives examples. Bales of cotton were carried out to Manchester in the UK, and these bales returned processed and packets of cloth with heavy bills attached to them. That is to say, cotton they were producing and they were sending it to Manchester in the UK, but somehow the bales return after the process as the packets of cloth with heavy bills. And by such examples he is proving his point that something that went out of the house did find their way back. Another example he gives, that letters posted by members of the family found their way back as they were redirected by the post offices that failed to locate the precise address. Another example, that letters which were posted by the members of the family could not reach to the mailing address. Another thing, that is ideas that originated in the house conveyed to outsiders returned to the house as gossip. Now this is a very interesting characteristic of this great house, that ideas were generated in the house itself, they were conveyed to the outsiders, and somehow these ideas returned to the house as gossip, as something which is not proper. Another example he is giving of his great house, that once a beggar, he sang a song outside the house in an unmusical tone, and this song was also not free from the four walls of the house, as the cook had picked up the lyrics of the song and sang it in a jeering voice. Another example that is really wonderful, which happens in our world also. We can see this happening with us also, that beggar who is singing outside the house is somehow entering, it gets entered into the house, and somebody of the, or here especially is mentioning a cook had picked up the lyrics of the song and he started singing in a very jeering voice. Another interesting thing about the great house, he gives us the details that some things that went out of this house could never stay out for a longer period of time. Another wonderful aspect, a very interesting aspect, we can say that something which went out could never stay for longer period. Let us have the examples. Which examples he is giving to prove his point? He says that they returned back right on time. These included daughters that were married to idiots and were therefore found to be incompatible to live with. The daughters definitely who got married, they were supposed to remain outside of the great house, but they never remained outside because they were married to idiots and they were not able to have a comfort zone with those idiots, and that's why they returned back. Another thing he says that it happened that these idiots had turned them out of the house. Somewhere those girls came back, those daughters came back, or in some cases those idiots made them return. So anything which gets out, that doesn't remain outside for a longer time. Another example of returning things. He says that sons of the house who had run away returned in the shape of their sons because their wives had given birth to boys. Now this is also interesting thing, that boys who already had run away from the house, they never wanted to be there, to be in the great house, they returned back in the shape of their own sons, like their wives had given birth to the boys only. So somehow the boys who went outside, who ran away, who just ran away, they came back, they returned back in the form of their own sons, in the form of their boys. And this is how this poet is proving the point. Again he says that these sons also brought with them water from the Ganges that could be sprinkled on someone about to die in the house. This is a kind of ritual we know in Hindu households, in wherein the water from the Gangas is sprinkled on somebody who is going to die in the house, and here these sons are doing this job. The end is really very knocking. We have lots of other things to discuss also. Not exactly the end is here, with an emotional note. The poet ends the poem by mentioning that once ran away, returned as a corpse that had been half eaten in the Sahara in the year 1943. Now this is something, the height of the example, the height of the entire concept of the poet, and he is kicking, he is just knocking our mentality, our mind, our psyche with this note. And with this emotional note, he says that the person who was outside and he was knocked, he was half eaten in the Sahara in the year 1943. He also could get back, he also returned back, and the emotional aspect is somewhat very much important here. Anything which goes out doesn't stay back, doesn't stay there for a longer time. And here this is the height of all instances, and with the emotional touch, with the emotional thing, that the poet ends the poem by indicating this thing, that one's corpse, the dead body which was half eaten from the Sahara in the year 1943 could come back. Many years later, a nephew who had left the house to join the army returned as a dead body. Now, with very intentional meaning, the writer proves his point, and with this fact that the nephew who wanted to go out, who just had left the house to join the army, he also returned, but as a dead body. He was not alive, but still, anyhow, it was managed that the dead body anyhow came back to the great house, and he had been killed in the course of a clash between the country's border security force and that of the neighboring country's security forces. So by and large, what exactly the poet wants to convey is the only fact that the great house, his ancestral house, was having a kind of characteristic, was having this particular characteristic to hold the things, to have the things in any form possible. Sons-in-laws or daughters or the wives of their sons, or we can say the servants, or we can say letters, the notions, the discussions, the ideas, anything. You can pick up anything, but those things, each and everything, used to remain there only in the great house. It doesn't go back, it doesn't remain outside, it doesn't just remain for others, even of somebody else's things which comes once, it doesn't go back. it doesn't go out, it doesn't go to the right person again, whether it's dishes of sweets from the neighbors or the books from the library. So the poet somehow is trying to maintain a specific notion about that great ancestral house, that once you are there, you are there. Once anything is there, it is there forever. We can have few appreciations also about the poet, about the poetry, which is really wonderful to go with. M.K. Bhatnagar, in the book The Poetry of A.K. Ramanujan, mentions that his poetry in the process becomes the arena where the need for relating oneself to history through tradition comforts the reality and immediacy of the contemporary milieu. We can have a further discussion on this quotation, like his poetry in the process becomes the arena where the need for relating oneself to the history through tradition. Here in this poem, the writer, the poet Ramanujan, A.K. Ramanujan, is relating himself to the history through tradition, and we can see the entire poem is having very proper traditional confrontations, very specific things, very small aspects, we can say, like the dish of a sweet from a neighborhood, that is very common thing, but here the poet tries to convey the notion that once it is there, it is there. So he is trying to relate his history, his childhood, with the traditional things, with the confrontation of traditional aspects of Indian culture, and by this he is trying to confront the reality, the immediacy of the contemporary milieu, the different aspects, the way of getting something better, and by relating himself with history, that is giving him a notion, a kind of confidence, we can say, through which we also can feel the same way, the same line, and we can also understand the emergency or the few things which are really, which should not be like that, like the plurality of God, or we can say the fake traditions, rituals, and the systems. Again, this Indian system, Indian society, that has also few things which he has already mentioned in the poem through his connection with the history, connection with his childhood, and he is intermingling with the traditional things, the traditions of the society, of his particular society, the South Indian part, and through all these things he is trying to show that through these small reflections, through these small memories, small incidents, he is trying to convey the exact picture, the whole phenomena which happens in the our societies, and by this we do understand lots of other things, as the concept of idea which is there. Let us discuss like one idea which is already generating in a family, in a home, in a house, and it goes out, others speak on that, others talks on that particular issue, and the same thing with a little difference comes back to the house, to the person who had generated the things, but now it has become a kind of gossip, not the idea. And few examples, one example he had given, and that is of this one, Yes. Sorry. That every Plotinus we read is what some Alexander looted between the malarial rivers. Now, this idea was something was discussed, was originated with few of the family members of that great house, but somehow it went outside and it became, a kind of juxtaposition, or juxtaposition of, we can say, ideas. It is getting generated, it is getting outside, it is mingling with others' views, it is getting spoiled, and then it comes back as a gossip and not as the original idea, which exactly was generated in the house only by few members of the family. Then again, did the conceivers of gossip comprehend that the rumors they were spreading had their roots in the very house. Those conceivers even didn't know that whatever they are gossiping, whatever they are discussing, and they are conveying to the person is somewhat was coming from those people only. So this is something that this writer, this poet A.K. Ramanujan is trying to connect with his history, he is trying to connect with his memories, and he is trying to convey, to confront the reality, the immediacy of the contemporary milieu. And the next point, that is the next issue, or we can say the criticism by R. Parthasarathi. He is saying that Ramanujan has been able to forge an oblique elliptical style all his own. There is something clinical about his use of the language. It has a cold, glass-like quality. It is an attempt to turn languages into an artifact. Now, again, when we talk about the language of the poem, it is really very unique. With few examples I can say, when he says, unread library books usually mature in 2 weeks and begin to lay a row of little eggs in the ledgers for finers as silverfish in the old man's office room. Now, such a wonderful simile is there when the writer, the poet, is just trying to use the language in so sophisticated, so wonderful manner by saying that the books from the library, they come inside, people or the members of the family get the books from the library, they get those things into the house, but those books, they are not of any use. What exactly they do, they just put little eggs in the ledgers for fines as silverfish in the old man's office room. Now, this is really so wonderful aspect of the poem where A.K. Ramanujan is justifying his ideas as well as he is trying to put up everything in so wonderful language. Another aspect of language, another example we can go with is that in the ledgers for fines as silverfish in the old man's office room, breed dynasties among long legal words in the succulence of Victorian parchment. Then he says, this one, the neighbor wala part, neighbors' dishes brought up with the greasy sweets that made all night the day before yesterday for the wedding anniversary of a god. Never leave the house they enter, like the servants, the phonographs, the epilepsies in the blood, sons-in-law who quite forget their mothers but stay to check accounts or teach arithmetic to nieces. Now, one by one, the way he is putting his examples. Like once he is putting a statement about the house, then he is giving the instances, he is giving the examples one by one with so wonderful language, and similar similes, metaphors are there he is using. Again, he is giving examples of each and every particular minute aspect, daughters in law or sons in law or the own daughters or the grandchildren, everybody is there. And in this particular society, when we talk about this particular society of A.K. Ramanujan, we can have a clear understanding that a very big, a very large, a very great house remains there, and lots of people, almost 2, 3, 4 families remain there in that great house only, and there each and every minute detail, each and every up and down is discussed with each and every one, and that is how the whole family or the whole house has the very minute things as well as very deep things. Here again, when we talk about this style and all, it is written there is something clinical about his use of the language. It has a cold glass like quality. Definitely, we have just seen, we have just gone through the examples as well as the style of writing. And the last line, that it is an attempt to turn languages into an artifact. The language, and in the very beginning we just had known that he, A.K. Ramanujan, knew 5 languages, and through languages he is trying to put his ideas, he is attempting to turn languages into something artistic, into something which is very much touchy, which is something very much philosophical, psychological, and very much sociological. Again, as the poet, he is trying to put the things, like it's a kind of criticism itself on his own society, on his own people, on his own family members. He knows what exactly he is trying to say, and we also can understand how cynic he was feeling at that time. And again, when he is recalling, when he is recollecting his memories, he is trying to prove the point this only, that he was not happy with the things and with the Indian system, or especially the systems which are getting generated, which are very much ritual kind, and through this he is putting his ideas, his notions into very sophisticated way, in a very qualitative way. And it has been rightly said that A.K. Ramanujan is not obvious as a poet. The poet in him has to be gradually discovered. His poems may not impress the readers on the first reading, but a closer reading of his poems will definitely reveal their myriad hidden beauties. As with the first reading, we could not understand what he is trying to prove, but as deep as we just went into, we could understand the hidden intention and the meaning of his words. The poem is wonderful. The poem teaches us a lot about his own society, about his own childhood, and through which we are able to understand lots of things with his ideas, and with the very precise, very particular style of language and versification. Thank you very much.
Sandhan. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.